The air was already thick with the smell of scorched wood and cheap lamp oil, a perfume common to a city built on the speed of haste and the promise of tomorrow. But tonight, it was different. Tonight, the air was sharp, laced with the acrid tang of true disaster. Professor Elias Thorne, a man whose passion for the cosmos often made him oblivious to the terrestrial, only felt the heat when it became personal. He was not a fireman, he was a geologist, an astronomer, a man dedicated to the other worlds. Yet here he was, choking on the smoke of his own world burning down, his face slick with sweat and soot, struggling against the panicked tide of humanity. He didn't care about the ledger books, the rare ornithological sketches, or the fossilized fish in the main hall of the Chicago Academy of Sciences. He cared only for one thing, the stone. It was not famous then, not beyond the rarefied circles of mineralogy. It was a hunk of space iron, a 48-pound behemoth of nickel-iron alloy known simply as the Tishomingo specimen. It had crashed to Earth uncounted millennia ago, a silent, black messenger from the void, and for the past year, it had rested on a velvet pedestal in his laboratory. "Professor. We have to go. The entire west side is gone." A young assistant, a blur of terror and frantic urgency, tugged at Thorne's arm. Thorne shook him off, his eyes fixed on the display case, the glass already spiderwebbed with thermal stress. The roar outside was no longer just the wind, it was a hungry beast consuming plank and beam, brick and mortar. He could hear the crackle now, the terrifying sound of his life's work becoming ash. He threw the shoulder of his tweed coat against the reinforced glass, once, twice. The glass shattered with a deafening report, swallowed almost instantly by the greater inferno. He wrapped the coat around the stone, a crude, futile gesture of protection, and lifted it. It was colder than logic dictated, heavy with a density that seemed to defy its size, an anchor of cosmic iron in a sea of human flame. He stumbled back, the weight a dead, awkward burden. The ceiling joists were beginning to groan, surrendering to the relentless fire. He knew he could not carry it out, not through the chaos. He needed to hide it. To save it for the city that would rise again, a symbol of permanence amidst impermanence. His eyes fell on the Academy's unfinished, fortified subvault, a room meant for the most delicate seismic instruments, currently empty. He managed to drag the stone to the stone archway, pushed the heavy oak door open with a grunt, and shoved the meteorite inside, slamming the door shut. He took one last look at the dark, alien metal, whispering a promise into the suffocating gloom, "Wait for me. I'll retrieve you when the smoke clears." The next moment, a pillar of flame erupted through the roof directly above him. A massive beam, a splintered monument to the city's arrogance, crashed down. Elias Thorne felt a searing, blinding pain, followed by a silence heavier than the Tishomingo stone itself. The fire raged for 3 days, leveling 4 square miles, destroying over 17,000 buildings, and leaving 100,000 people homeless. When the smoke finally cleared, only chimneys stood like blackened, skeletal fingers pointing to a sky that seemed impossibly vast and uncaring. The Chicago Academy of Sciences was a ruin. Professor Elias Thorne was among the officially listed dead. And the Tishomingo meteorite? It was gone. Not melted, iron does not melt easily, but simply vanished from the face of the earth, a cosmic relic swallowed by a very earthly catastrophe. It would become one of the city's enduring, obscure legends, a space rock that burned up on the ground. It would take over 50 years for that promise whispered into the smoke to be kept, and when the stone finally reappeared, it wouldn't be in the rebuilt laboratories of Chicago. It would be found 1,600 miles away, in the sun-bleached, unforgiving dust of the Arizona Territory, hidden inside a hollowed-out skull. Ellie knelt, inspecting the remains. The man was a prospector, judging by the ragged canvas shirt and the worn leather pouch still cinched around his waist. He had been dead for at least a week. "Not the heat, not starvation," she murmured, peeling back a flap of the man's shirt. "Gunshot wound. Clean entry, just under the ribs. Exit wound is extensive. Rifle? Probably. But look closer, Sam." She pointed a gloved finger at the man's stiff, dirt-caked hand. He died clutching this. It was a small piece of rough, black metal. Sam took it, rolling the strangely heavy shard between his fingers. It was unlike any local ore he knew, too dense, too smooth in parts. Some kind of iron, maybe. Ellie shook her head. Iron rusts. This doesn't. It's got a strange crystalline texture when you catch the light just right. But that's not the most interesting part of this poor soul, Sam. Turn him over. Sam followed her instruction, bracing himself. As the body rolled, the contents of the shallow grave were revealed. The man hadn't been killed for something, but perhaps by it. Lying half buried in the soil, tucked near the dead man's hip, was a skull. Not the man's own, which was intact, but another, older skull, human, but ancient. And inside the dark, empty cavity of the skull, nested in the orbit where an eye socket should be, was a single object. Undetectable by the instruments of the 1870s. A forgotten cosmic fortune, Sam concluded. A 50-year-old heist that finally caught up to the victim here in the Arizona dust. He looked at the window, where the desert stretched, vast and indifferent. We need to find out who JD was trying to sell this to, or who knew he had it. The pieces of the puzzle were disparate, an ancient skull, a modern murder, a prehistoric rock, and a great American disaster. Let's start with the Chicago Academy, Sam decided, pulling a piece of official telegram paper toward him. I'll wire the reconstructed institution. We need to know who was in charge of that vault in 1871, and who was officially listed as dead. I want to know who had access, and who, perhaps, benefited from the stone's disappearance. Ellie nodded, holding the meteorite sphere to the light. The fire of 1871 had left its mark on a city. This stone carried the silent record of its own, far older catastrophe. And now, the past was reaching out, not with flames, but with the cold, unforgiving intent of a bullet.